In this LensVid Talk, we're looking at new lenses, new firmware, and infrared cinematography. Stick around.
Hello, everybody. Hello, Art.
Hey, all, Ida.
We're doing LensVid Talk 20.
That's right.
We came to a 20 LensVid Talk. So today we're going to talk about a lot of things. I want to start with something to do with the setup. First of all, something really small. If you're using like 2 or more mics connected to a long cable somewhere, either to the camera or recorder or whatever, sometimes you don't know which cable goes to, like, which cable belongs to which mic.
Right.
So what we did here, I'll point at it. I don't know how much you can actually see, but I found these. Usually we used in the past like gaff tape with color, but it was ugly and it seems to like tear off. So I found these like rubber bands in different colors, and they seem to fit perfectly on an XLR cable. So that's working. So blue to blue, I'm blue, you're red, and then we know which cable goes to which input. So that's that. I just want to say we were supposed to replace microphones, but it didn't really work. These were supposed to be like the new SM7DB mics,
Right.
but I know what happened. Something happened to them.
3 hours of trying to troubleshoot. And
that was not a lot of fun.
These,
yeah. So it's still these not amazing NT1s, but hopefully we'll figure this out in the next few weeks and replace them, I'm hoping. So let's start with some stuff. First, with the reviews that we're working on or finished or working on. We published this week. We're recording this on the 20... What's the date? 28, 29?
29th.
29th. Okay, so we published this week a review of the new Sigma 50mm.
Yeah.
We did sort of a hands-on talk with a friend, a good friend, Matan Sharon, who is a nature and wildlife photographer. And both of us, me and him, worked with the new 50mm f1.2 Sigma lens, DGDN art lens. It's a really interesting lens. We already returned it, so I can show it, but I can show some of the footage that we use for the review. I have to say, our tests show that it's actually sharper than the Sony. Now, I've seen some other reviews, and not everybody got to the same conclusion. There are some options. Maybe our copy of the Sony was subpar somehow, or it's kind of old, so maybe something happened to it. I'm not sure. I don't think so. Maybe our copy of the Sigma was spectacular. I know. It was the interesting thing was that it was super sharp at f1.2 in the corners, which is something that you wouldn't expect.
Yeah.
Honestly, not even on the like a very high-end lens, but it was. So I don't have anything to say about it. The Sony wasn't as sharp. Not even, I would say, even up to f4, or at least not up to between f2.8 to f4. So it is what it is. That's what we got, but it's a very sharp lens regardless. Otherwise, I mean, in terms of like all the other aspects, like breathing was very low, chromatic aberration was, I would say, pretty okay. There was some, but probably in the Sony as well, so I wouldn't count it against it. What else? We tested basically everything that we usually test. Everything was very good. Even vignette, I think, was better than the Sony, but with the compensation turned off. Bokeh was basically identical to the Sony. So again, all around fantastic. The one thing which the Sony has over this lens is autofocus.
That happens every time.
Yeah, and the thing is this. There are a few things. First of all, it will only go, if you want to shoot anything really fast, it will only go to 15 frames per second, like all other non-Sony lenses. But let's say that you can live with that. The problem is that when tracking moving subjects, fast-moving subjects, we got a lot of misses, both me and Matan as well. So we both tested it. We did a very like difficult test, like running towards the camera, which is like more or less the most difficult that you can think about. But the Sony was able to get 10 out of 10, and the Sigma got either 5, 6, or at best maybe 7 out of 10 at best. And this one didn't. I mean, the Sigma didn't, and the Sony did. So it is what it is. So if you're going to buy it to shoot like really fast moving subjects, like I don't know, dogs, kids running towards the camera, and models jumping in the air and running, I would go for the Sony. It's more expensive, but the autofocus is like tech sharp every time. If you're shooting like portraits of models or whatever, like more or less standing still or moving like just slightly, that should be enough. I think that should be, even if you miss like 1 out of 10, it's fine.
I was gonna say, it seems like in all of our previous tests comparing to the original Sony's, the optics are usually good, usually very on point. In this case, I looked at your tests of the sharpness. It looked significantly better.
Yeah.
And I had this other photographer. He worked for years on. He was talking about his old Canon f1.2, and he was saying how hard it was, but back on the 5D Mark III or whatever, it was really hard to focus because it's just such a shallow depth of field.
Yeah.
Anyway, but in all the tests that we've done before on different lenses, it always seems like the autofocusing is not as
Yeah.
quick.
I think it's more the major thing is like on fast moving subjects.
Yeah.
That's the big thing.
So that's the thing. If you're in the studio, most of the time you're just doing portraits, and you can always check that focus. I think it's a great lens.
Yeah, I agree. No,
For the
that's
price.
although I have to say, in the studio, do you really shoot at f1.2? Not really.
Some
is
portrait
more-
photographers do.
Yeah, maybe, but I would usually shoot at 1.2, f1.2 more outdoors, like with, I don't know, it really depends on what you're
Yeah.
doing, but it's a it's a very good lens otherwise, and
Pretty capable,
the
yeah.
pricing is $1,400 versus $1,900. That's a pretty big difference. So everybody needs to make their own decisions on which lens is best for them, but that's the difference, and this is what we saw in the review. So let's talk about the second lens. Let's bring it. This is something that we're still working on. Yeah, you can see it in the video. This is the 500 millimeter 5.6 f5.6.
I was surprised by this lens. The size, the weight is barely bigger than the old 70-200 Sony one. Really nice, kind of a funky shape, I'd say. But
yeah, exactly. This part, the lower part is, it looks like a converter, like a teleconverter. It's kind of strange.
And the front is really big. It has a very big front element.
Let me remove the. Okay, so now you can see.
Yeah,
that's a pretty beefy one.
About a kilo of glass right there.
This lens weighs in at, I think, below 1.3, 1.4 kilograms, somewhere around that.
It's very manageable.
That's nothing. I can handhold this most day, like all day, without any issues.
Yeah.
So I'm really interested in how this is going to perform. Now, again, the same problem that we spoke about applies to this. How does this focus on fast-moving subjects? Now, if you're talking about the 50 millimeter, then you can maybe sometimes manage like some misses and a lens. But on this is, for me, it's a lens for shooting birds.
Yeah.
And birds, if you're missing half your shots,
Right.
it doesn't matter that it's super sharp. It's a big problem.
Fast enough,
so we'll have to see how this really functions in the real world. I've started using it a little bit, but it will take a couple of weeks until we really find a way to utilize it. And I also want to test it against Matan. Our friend also has 600 millimeter f4 Sony and 400 millimeter f2.8 and 100 to 400 millimeter. So we can test it against all these lenses. So it will be very interesting. Obviously, this costs about $3,000. The 600 is like $14,000. So it's not really apples to apples comparison, but Sony doesn't have anything else. I mean, if you're looking for a prime, long prime, there is the 600, the 400, and all the others are zoom lenses. Yeah, 100 to 400, 200 to 600. Okay, so that's coming in a few weeks. Now let's talk about something that you've been working on. Actually, you've been working on for quite a few months now, and this is the Zhiyun.
We learned that name, yeah.
We learned that name last year. So Zhiyun Crane 4, and there is also a small LED. I'll write the name on the screen because I forgot it. But it's the Zhiyun Crane 4 and the small LED that they released, I think, a couple of months ago, 3 months ago, which is like 20 watts, I think.
20 watts, but I don't know how they're doing it.
Yeah, it's very, very powerful.
It seems like the 20 watts or whatever even the 60 watts now are a lot more powerful than the old 60 watts.
I'm guessing that what's happened, I mean, the watts is just the power consumption. It's not the output.
Right.
So it's more efficient probably. It's making less heat and producing more output. So
if the actual COB is, I don't know how you can
the COB or the lux?
No, I'm saying the actual the lamp element, the COB,
okay.
I don't know
the LED, yeah.
how many, if it's gotten any technological advances.
I'm sure.
But if it produces more output with less loss, then yeah, it's become more powerful. So the 20 is like, it feels like the 60.
Yeah.
Right. It has these magnetic
yeah, you have like a grid and diffuser.
Barn doors.
Yeah.
For something I don't really see much need for them. I mean, you could for maybe.
Can you do like an actual cut, like a thin slice?
No, that's the thing. It's hard to. I don't know if I think it's too close because it's a little panel light.
Yeah.
Well, not panel. It is COB, but
it's a COB or panel.
Yeah, that's not true.
It's a tiny panel, I think.
It's a tiny panel.
Yeah.
I was talking about COBs earlier.
Oh, yeah.
But, so, yeah. Got myself confused. Sorry. It is a little panel light. So because the barn doors are so close, usually the barn doors are separated by the what do you call it? The reflector, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. It doesn't work as well. It can flag it from spilling, something like that.
Okay.
But it doesn't really work to
cut the light to like
to shape the light.
Yeah.
So don't see much use for that. Maybe for all small like
I would
tabletop
just like
photography.
a good diffuser and a grid.
Yeah, that works great. It has a double diffuser and a grid magnetic. The magnets are not very strong, but I mean it holds. It's not like you would move it around a lot.
Yeah.
It's like it's in one place.
So that's the LED. We'll have more on the review, but the crane itself, the Crane 4, you've been using it, right?
Crane we've used on a few
commercial
a few
productions, yeah.
It's great, as great as Zhiyun gets. I think. I don't know what's going on. You would think. I would think
after so many years of making gimbals,
it
will be more streamlined somehow.
Exactly. Somehow there's still software things that don't. It is smooth. The motors. I've talked about this in previous.
Yeah, even in the previous
reviews.
one.
It's like motors. We've gotten it. We get it. Motors are strong enough. You don't need to do anything. The cradle. Okay, now we figured out with. The cradle is big enough for anything that we can put on.
Oh yeah, that was the problem with the Weeble 3S,
3S, right?
Which was not strong enough to hold.
But now, the software needs a little tweaking. It's not as. I mean, there's this stuff in there that just gets in the way. Did you check
if they maybe released some firmware updates recently?
That's what we need to look at. Yeah.
Okay.
Other than that, I mean, once you set it and it works and everything is, you got it to like the dead band to your liking and all that.
You're not a big fan of this whole handle.
The handle stinks, really. I don't know why. Sorry, it's the same handle as on the Weeble 3 and the 3S, and it's a little.
Like the lock is not good somehow.
Yeah, it gets undone all the time. It's a handle. It has to be solid, but you move it around, it gets loose, and then it starts wobbling, and then like it's It's finicky. I don't
Okay.
like it.
Okay. Let's talk about some news, and there are a lot of news, especially in the firmware department. So
Yeah,
I'm
everybody's
guessing that all the big announcements are going to be closer to NAB because
yeah.
we're getting close to NAB. By the time this will be up, we'll probably be very close to NAB because it takes some time. It takes us some time to edit. But let's start with Nikon. So Nikon has been doing very well in terms of like firmware updates, and they have another firmware update recently for the Z9,
Mm-hmm.
Z9, Z9, 5, so 5.0.
Right.
So they have. I wrote. It's not everything. I will have a link with all the actual improvements or changes or bug fixes in the article, but they have like stills slash video shooting banks, so you can choose. I think that we had this in Sony forever.
Yeah.
Like you can choose. I didn't know that the Nikon didn't have this. Maybe I know I haven't shot
Shot.
with a Z9 Z9 um, ever. I think, but I don't know. It's kind of strange. But it also have this improved focus point visibility, which also I think came to Sony like a couple of years ago, where you
Mm-hmm.
can change the color of the square that shows
Right.
the
Right.
autofocus point. Maybe they've done more. I don't know. What else? Improved flicker reduction, again, something that we have on Sony, and many more like stills and video features. So I don't know. It's always good. Um, but
Do we know, because at some point this, I mean, it's already like what, 2 3 years old, the camera.
something like that, yeah.
I remember that we talked about the. I don't know. This was before LensVid Talk, but we've talked about this. Like it was amazing when it launched. It was an amazing camera, but like
It
many
missed.
people
Yeah.
couldn't get it
Ah,
right.
yeah. That's the
So
problem.
I don't know where they're at with delivering.
No, I think that
That's
I
solved.
think they managed that. I think,
Okay.
yeah. No, I don't think that that's a problem. I think that initially when they launched it, it was a great camera, but it missed quite a lot of like pretty important features, and then they started adding them later on. Now, some people are saying, look at Sony, maybe they don't do the firmware that well, but at least like when the camera is launched, it has most of the like the
Right.
features nailed in. It's a discussion, and we're going to Sony right away. But I'm not sure that at this point. I think that after 5 major updates to the Z9, I know I think it's starting to be more than in some aspects, at least more than what the Sony gives you. At
Yeah.
least and we're talking about the A1. So let's talk about the Sony. Sony released this week 2 sets of firmware updates for different cameras. So it includes, I think, the A7R5, the A7CR, the A7C2, the ZVE1, the A1, and the A7S III. I hope that I didn't miss anything. So I won't go about everything, but I'll talk about a few things. First of all, something that happened earlier today. So the A1 and the A7S III was announced yesterday compared to when we're recording this, and you didn't update your A7S III,
Haven't yet.
not yet.
I
I
usually wait a few days before.
Okay, so we'll talk about this. I waited with the A1. Actually, I wanted to update. I even talked to. This is an interesting point. I talked to Sony. We knew that this is coming. And I talked to Sony and asked them, "Can you give us permission to test this like beforehand, the A1's firmware?" And they checked and they got back to me and say no.
Hmm.
Now, I don't think that in this case, I don't think that this is something to do with us. I think that this was like a global thing. As far as I've seen on the internet, nobody got like hands-on, like before, like pre-release
Right.
ability to test. They didn't do like a beta testing or anything on with outside people.
Mhm.
Now, what happened is that earlier today, apparently some people reported that there were bugs in the A1 firmware
Mm.
and Sony pulled it, which is not the first time, if you remember correctly. And I think it happened with the A7 IV, right?
One of
At
them, yeah.
least one
It's
other
yeah.
camera, maybe more. It happened to them in the past. Now, I have to say, this is kind of not very reassuring because when you think about it, they had like a gazillion year to work on
Yeah,
this
plenty of
and
time.
perfect it. So after like 2 years of working on a firmware or whatever, you still can't get it right. I don't know what they're doing. It's like in general, I would say if you hear that there is a new firmware update, wait at least a week, if not
Yeah.
2 weeks, and before you update, read like forums and what people are saying, on Facebook or whatever, about the firmware and if they had any issues. Because some people didn't have any issues with the
Yeah.
A1 firmware, and other people did. Something to do with the Bluetooth or Wi-Fi, from what I've seen. But anyway, regardless, so what did they actually bring? Let's talk about this. I'm talking again about the A1. Do you know what they brought to the A7S III? Do you remember?
Yeah. I didn't feel that it was
Oh,
such a big update.
I agree, and that's my point for the A1 as well.
Yeah, it
There were a
was.
couple of interesting things, right?
Yeah,
Well,
like breathing compensation.
no,
That,
that's
that
for sure.
it's
That's
the same
everybody
stuff.
expected that.
Exactly, but I didn't know. I haven't looked at it in depth, but
Yeah,
I did not
we have
see
all the text,
in the
all the
review, in the notes, anything that's like specific to this camera. It's all the new technology that had come out and newer cameras. Just that, not all of it, but some of
what
it.
I've seen for the A7S III is that you have now a better touch screen with a lot of options, and you have the screen that you usually get, I think, or at least similar to what you have on the FX30, when you have all the information, regarding like the video. It's a shortcut sort of screen, I think.
Oh, the quick menu.
I think. I think that this is what I saw. I know when you update it,
Yeah, on this
let
one.
us know in the next LensVid Talk. We are recording 2 in a row. So I'll read what I wrote down for the A1. So it has this content authenticity C2PA sort of thing.
What does that mean?
It basically is supposed to tell you whether an image was manipulated in post. Do you feel that this is important for you?
Well, with all the AI
Yeah, no,
imaging,
I understand the concept,
maybe.
but for your workflow, is it important?
No, I'm
Mm,
trying to think
For
how
me,
they
neither. It's important for news shooters, I'm guessing, if you're shooting news, if you want to be able to make sure that this is really like the authentic image. I know if you're shooting uh, the princess from the UK, what's her name?
princess.
You
Yeah.
remember? Anyway, I'll write it. But no, that the idea, if you're doing, because the BBC was accused of manipulating
Oh
the
yeah, yeah, of
all
course.
this thing. But no, regardless, I'm saying I don't think that most people are going to care
No.
about this. So that's that. And from what I understand, this is also like version 1, which is like not completely bulletproof. I don't know. Again, I don't care about this too much. There is the breathing compensation that we talked about, which was supposed to be, I think, in the camera either from the get go or from at least 2 years ago when they released it for the first time with the A7 IV.
Yeah.
So breathing compensation. Um, this is interesting. They have better image stabilization, which I think combines the lens with the camera.
Mm.
Sort of thought that they always had this, but apparently not. So I don't know. It's interesting to see like before and after. Maybe you
Hmm.
can do like when you actually, before you actually upgrade, do like a walking test with a lens that doesn't have an image that does have image stabilization,
Hmm.
70 to 200, something like that, and then do the same exact thing with after you update and see if it
They're
changes
hard to replicate, but yeah.
as much as you can. I know. I don't expect too much, but who knows? Better focus assist. I'm not sure in what respect exactly. But and quite a few other like smaller things. Obviously, bug fixes. This is what I saw. Again, there are a few other things, but go and read the full text. What I'm still missing, like I wanted to see. I was expecting a lot more. For example, I was expecting the pre-capture thing where
Yeah.
you click and you get like the ability to, or you actually put it in pre-capture, and when you click it's actually started either recording video or I don't know, taking it could be pre-capture, I think, also in stills.
Yeah.
So I know, but it doesn't exist on this camera, which is really strange. Focus stacking. The A7R4 has focus stacking. I
Hmm.
don't think that you need an AI chip to do focus stacking. I don't think so. So it's not in camera anyway. It's just a feature. It just
Yeah.
tells the camera how to shoot. So why is it not on the A1? Again, I don't know. And many other features which, no, it's like it's like, to me it feels as if they did the bare minimum.
Just because people have been asking.
Yeah, something like that. But it's not like two features, it's like a bunch of features, but to say that, yeah, we did something, but when you actually look at the features, like, not really what most people were looking for.
Mm.
So I don't know what to say, but that's what we got. And again, at the moment when we were recording this, the A1 update was pulled from the Sony website, so you can't use it. But hopefully it will come back fixed later on. Blackmagic has this Blackmagic's camera 8.6 public beta firmware update. Uh, I'm not sure they calling it very big update. I don't know. For what I've seen, it's mostly like cloud related things.
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot something about the Sony, which is actually interesting, but again, they did it, in my view, wrong. They allowed users to record with two A1s at the same time from one camera.
Interesting.
Or from an app. I'm not sure. Oh, by the way, the A1 and the A7S III now supports the monitoring app that has more features, which is nice. I wouldn't say it's not nice. It's actually cool. But the feature that I'm talking about, as far as I know, I'm not sure if it relates to stills or video. I talked to the Sony about this, and I was talking about video. You have, like, we have a setup of 1, 2, 3 cameras here. And instead of like going and pressing 1, 1, 1, having an app, pressing one of them, and it will record on all three of them at the same time. As far as I understand, this feature doesn't exist at the moment. Maybe I'm wrong, and also, even if it does, I think it's only for A1s. So what, are you supposed to buy like 3 A1s? It's kind of stupid. It should come to every camera. It's like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
I know. So back to the Blackmagic. So the Blackmagic camera 8.6 public beta. So it brings all sorts of cloud support things. So you have like basically you can do like a webcam that you can do with Sony and Nikon and other cameras. So you can do like a webcam and also do like cloud, all sorts of cloud options, like probably shooting to the cloud or something.
Yeah, directly the uploading directly from the camera.
Yeah, I think that the Sony now have better FTP like sharing, so you can shoot stills and video and share them directly to a NAS. I saw that somebody did that. That's nice. Again, I think there was this option, but I never played with it. So that's the Blackmagic. Let's talk about lenses. There have been some interesting lens announcements, or basically they're coming very soon. There was like pre-announcement. So Viltrux has this. I think that they have a bunch of new lenses, but one thing that caught my eye was really strange lens, 30 to 300 T4.
Huge lens.
Yeah.
Comes with a big old handle.
I'm guessing. Do you remember what was the lens? The big one that we saw in IBC. Do you remember? Also,
not the Viltrux.
No, it was a completely new camera company that I never seen before. I need to look at the video again, but I was under the impression that was a zoom
this
lens.
one's not as big.
It's big, but it's not gigantic. So again, 30 to 300 full frame T4 manual focus. Cine lens. I don't know. Is it parafocal? I don't know.
There's no
information at the moment.
Yeah,
I'm guessing that this is all going to be shown for the first time at 10AB, so we'll have to wait for the videos from there. So that's that. And I think they also have like 3 other f1.2 lenses, which is interesting. I'm not sure if do you remember if there are like, I think that they're all autofocus lenses. So that's
there's a whole section. Their website has a big list of different announcements, and there's a full frame. There's a couple of APS-C lenses. There's some.
But f1.2 autofocus lenses. That's cool.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see. We talked about the 50 Sigma. So that's coming. Meike has 3, I think, new f1.4 lenses.
Yeah.
They are also, I think, autofocus. Yeah, also autofocus. So 24, 35, and 50
Mhm.
f1.4 E mount. The other ones are, I think, also E mount. Do you know if
Yeah,
it's?
there's a couple of different mounts.
Ah,
But
really?
yeah,
Okay. Well, again, I don't think that they have like an autofocus RF mount.
yeah, Canon.
From what I've seen, I think that Canon has sort of figured out that they can't continue with their behavior in terms of like how they treat third-party
Yeah,
RF lenses because it's not going to work. You know, it took them a while to figure this one out because they wanted to close down the system, basically just Canon lenses with autofocus and nobody else.
yeah,
And then they said something like only allowed lenses, so they won't compete with Canon. But I think that they should even go, remove this restriction because again, it will just block them basically, especially against Sony, which has so many third-party
yeah.
lenses. So I know, but probably for Nikon. Um, there are two new. We talked about Zhiyun in the beginning about the light and the Crane 4. They have like a bunch of new products. This was like all of these were announced like a couple of months ago, 3, 4 months ago.
Right.
Now they announce more new products. So they have this something called
CINEPEER.
CINEPEER, yeah, CM25 and CX100. So
Yeah,
25 watts and 100 watts,
right.
which are,
Small panels.
yeah, to me, they seem very, no, I think one of them, the CX100, I
The
think
X100 is
is similar
like the
to like
100
a
that we have.
COB
Yeah.
that we tested. Do you know what's the differences between that and the other, the one that we tested? I think
It's
it's a
like a
less
cheaper
expensive one. Yeah,
construction, and somebody was saying that the battery doesn't come off; it just stays on there,
not
and
sure. I need to look at it again. Yeah,
and apparently that's the problem because
if you take it on a flight and
then
it
and it
turns
turns
on
on,
by
it gets really
accident,
hot.
no, that's dangerous. Yeah,
It has all these stickers on it before you start using it.
yeah,
Like beware, it gets
yeah.
hot, and
No, 100 watt in something which is like tiny,
you
like
start a
this.
fire with that.
Yeah, that's problematic. I'm not sure, but yeah, it is what it is. What else? They had also something called the Molus X60. The Molus is what we tested, right?
That's the line that we have. Yeah, they have the 100 that we have, plus the 200 that we haven't looked
We
at.
haven't looked at, but what we tested was an bicolor, right?
Yeah, I think
This one is an RGB, so it's a
so. Okay,
60-watt RGB.
nice.
So that's interesting. So now you have the same form factor, but an RGB. So they have like a bunch of new lights.
Mhm,
Again, I'm not sure if they're going to, guessing, show it in an NAB. So,
mhm.
and we might get at least one of them. Maybe the RGB can be interesting to test
Yeah,
because, it's useful. So that's that. Uh, we can't have a LensVid Talk without Godox. It's always, yeah,
that's right.
have so many new products. It's unbelievable. I think I just got another mail about a new product from them today, but that's not coming into this LensVid Talk. So they had this. Basically, it's two lights, and one of them I think we saw in IBC, but the second is completely new. The first one is the P600R. So I think we saw it on IBC, right?
Yeah, we saw a bunch of different panels, and I think
No. The P600 was, we tested the P600 bi, right?
right.
Which is like a bicolor. Um,
The R is rectangular, right? So it's 2 by 1.
no. What we
What's
had,
the ours? No, ours is a square, so that's.
I'm thinking that the R is for RGB.
Oh, I see. Okay,
I think.
yeah,
Uh,
because they have the
they have
two
the
by
bi
one
and
and the
they have the
one with.
R. So that's the options. I don't think that they have like a single color panel. Maybe they do.
Mm,
Um, but this is the P600R hard, which is like a hard light. But the more interesting one, at least from my perspective, is a P1200R.
yeah,
And that's a 2 by 1,
yeah,
which is like twice the size, but still not that big. But it's 1200 watts. That's a lot of power.
that's
It has a
crazy.
competition, I think, from, if I remember correctly, from Nanlite. I think.
Yeah, Nella has
I
a
think they
panel.
have a strong power. I'm not sure if Aperture has something like that. I think their strongest one is a 600, but maybe we're coming to NAB, so maybe they will have a 1200 as well.
Mm,
Makes sense. All these three companies sometimes seems to be following one another.
mhm.
So one releases something and then the other one releases something similar or comparable. But the 1200R is something that I would definitely like to test.
That'd be a great light, like the 600, the 600 hard that we have here.
I think yeah, whatever.
Hard, whatever. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's bicolor, but it's the hard light, kind of like this one. The 1200 is also hard light, but it's also RGB.
yeah.
This one was great when we did the testing and everything. It's kind of like in between because it's very powerful. So it's
But when
great.
you're starting to diffuse it,
Exactly.
it's not as powerful as you
So
want.
you need the 1200, not the 600, because it's hard. So you have to diffuse it, but when you do diffuse it, you lose a lot of power. So it's not as powerful.
This is
So the
why I'm
12 would be
excited
great.
about the 1200. Yeah. I'm thinking that for what we do, we shoot like commercials and obviously stuff here in the studio. Anything beyond like 1000, 1200 is an overkill because, first of all, you're starting dealing with a lot of like issues with
Yeah. How do
electricity.
you plug
It,
it in? How do
it's
you?
not, I mean, we're in like European electricity, so 220, so it's supposedly easier, but still, I think you need to be to start being aware of like a specific like connector from the
Yeah.
power brick, from the power of like the wall. I don't want to mess with that. That's the point. So that's two lights that are coming again. Probably are going to be seen for the first time in, or at least the 1200 in NAB
Right.
in a month or so. So that's that. And now I want to talk about well, this is software basically in AI. We've been talking a lot about
Mm,
AI. It's coming again and again. And this is something called the Impossible Things Lightroom plugin. So
yeah.
it's an AI plugin by
F stop.
no, it's not by F-Stoppers. They did a video with, I forgot his name. I'll put it on the screen. But it's basically designed for wedding and portrait photographers to use with Lightroom.
Hmm.
I personally, you use Lightroom in the past?
I for many years,
Yeah.
but I don't shoot sets anymore.
Yeah. So
So
yeah, Photoshop.
kind of useless.
I use Photoshop for everything I do. I never got into the Lightroom work workflow.
Yeah.
It I like my folders to be real folders and not virtual folders.
Right.
It's something to do with my mind. My brain works this way. So I
Uh,
know.
the whatever they call it, the catalog or
Yeah,
whatever. It
I
gets
don't like
I
this
never
concept.
liked it, and it's like if you're only doing 2, 3, 5, 15 photos, you don't need it.
No,
If you have 1,000, then yeah, maybe. And still, I don't think it's the best system, but
a lot
it
of
is what
people
it is.
use it, so
So
I
like
can
I prefer the Photoshop plugin. It's the same camera raw. It's the same settings,
exactly.
but you do it in Photoshop or even in Bridge. I use
Yeah.
Bridge a lot.
But
So
I think that this plugin is specific for Lightroom because of the way it works.
right.
What it does is basically it takes, let's say you shot like a wedding with 1500, 1200, I don't know how many photos, maybe
Yeah.
more, 3000, I don't know, whatever number of photos that he did. What you can do, which you explained to me as somebody who worked in this area in the past, you could have done before, but this time is probably a little bit different. Uh, you can basically apply like a set of
You have presets.
presets, exactly, but
There's presets that come with with this plugin,
and you can make your own.
and then obviously you can use those. So whatever presets are on your system, you can just
Yeah. So
there's a
yeah,
menu there, and you can choose
but
from.
I think that this aspect of it is not new, as you said. This
Right.
existed somehow
Yeah, you could
in
have just had that as a setting where all the photos that you bring in have the same
yeah.
the same settings on them.
I think that what's special about this, and again, I haven't tested it, so I can't really say. And the video, F Stoppers did a video on this
Hmm.
with the developer, and the thing is that I didn't understand. Again, maybe I need to rewatch it. Is that I think it's more specific. Like the application uses AI somehow to apply it in a specific way to each photo. So it won't be like if you overexpose a little bit in one photo, it won't overexpose it.
Right. Right.
So it will apply it a little bit lighter. And for example, if an image needs to be straightened in a way, and the next image won't be, will not be need to be
Exactly.
straightened, it won't straight. So the idea is that it will give you like a good starting place for all your photos,
Yeah.
and then you can go over like specific ones and like improve them. but you don't need to do this manually, and you don't need to apply like an existing set of like preset to all of them, which will mess some of them up.
Mm-hmm.
That's the idea. This is at least what I understand out of it. But if it works correctly, then it's a big time saver for a lot of wedding
Yeah,
shooters. And
absolutely.
yeah,
It's great to be able to get. I mean, all photos need some kind of correction, right?
yeah.
Or depend.
Again, depending on
You
who
want
you
to
are and
give
what you
it.
shoot.
Yeah. What's you want to amplify the.
I think that especially in photography of wedding photography, you tell me because you worked in that. People want like a number of good images, but they also always tell you, "Bring me all the images." You
Yeah.
know, I hear it
Exactly.
from
That's the thing. It's like you don't want to give just the
the edited video.
files
Yeah.
coming out of the
Ah,
camera
of course.
because yeah, this stuff there, as good as you are, you're gonna you're gonna mess up, right? So like, if you can get this plugin, AI will look at them and
Bring
fix them
them to
up a little
an
bit,
okayish level, like
right? And then you
B
can and
level.
then you can look at them and say, okay, that one's. I mean, you still can filter
Yeah,
the
obviously
stuff out.
you're going to edit the good ones like
Yeah,
further, but you can at least give them like the bride and groom. You can give them the sort of okay for the
yeah, the
entire set.
automatic set,
Yeah,
the automatic
yeah,
um, the 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 plug-in set, right?
yeah,
you give let them look at it, and then
yeah,
because a lot of times you give clients photos to pick from, like
yeah.
this is what I want
And
to
they have
edit,
a
right?
hard time because they don't look that good. And
Exactly. You
yeah,
don't want to give them the raw
actually,
photos.
that's a good point. Yeah,
So yeah,
yeah,
it's like a halfway
yeah,
edit, so
yeah.
should be good.
Okay, so that's impossible thing Lightroom plugin. And finally, we have something to do with. Did you see the first Dune, like the recent one, the first Dune one?
I tried to watch it a couple of times.
Oh, really?
It's I don't know. I just can't get into. I don't know. It's just
It's
I fall
yeah.
asleep every time I try to watch it.
Oh,
And
that's
the second one I hear is not as good. So
no. Actually, I
I'm
heard the other way around. I heard that
really
the second one is better. Well, again, it depends on who you are and what you want to watch. I watched the first one. It was okay. I mean, it was nice. I wouldn't, I didn't fell from my seat, but it was okay. I heard that the second one was better, but it was supposed to be like you can cut like half the film and it will still be okay,
no.
something like that. But regardless, um, in terms of like the way it was shot, it's really interesting. I'm talking about the second one. There is this. I don't want to ruin. If you didn't watch it, I don't want to ruin anything. So if you did, you can skip this part. But there was it was shot for IMAX from what I understand, but that's not the important thing. There is this segment shot for I think the Harkonnen Prime. It's like if I remember correctly, there are like three families, like the Dune story. There are three families, and the Harkonnen are one of them, and they have this home planet. So to shoot for that, the cinematographer for the film decided to shoot in infrared.
Mm-hmm.
So they took like an Alexa LF, which is the camera that they used, and they changed somehow the sensor in a way that it will shoot infrared.
Mm.
And the result is really interesting. I saw like a few segments. It's like you can do. I'll probably put like a short bit on the screen. It looks really interesting. It doesn't look like black and white. It looks like what you've seen like infrared images, stills
Yeah, it's like
infrared,
it looks like as if it were overexposed, but
but it's not.
yeah. So it
It's
looks
like
processed,
the contrast is like super like high.
right?
It's like it's interesting. Obviously, I wouldn't do like well. I'm guessing that at some point somebody will do an entire film like this, but I'm not sure that I would want to watch it.
Mm-mm.
But for a segment where you have like a saying, you want to emphasize something,
Mm-hmm.
and for this, there was an idea behind why they wanted to show this planet in this way. It was like really harsh and like and so this is what they've done, and it looks interesting. So this is I don't think that this is new. I think that this was done before on some other films, specifically with this cinematographer. But you know, I know. It's an interesting concept to add to like the ways that you can shoot a scene.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the Dune 2. And I think that yeah, that's everything that we have. It
Yeah.
wasn't there that long. And that's everything that we have for you. You can check out all the links below in the description and in LensVid article, in the LensVid article. Thank you, Art.
Check out the website.
Don't
Come
forget
back
to
for the next
subscribe.
LensVid Talk.
Yeah, don't forget to subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye.